The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Kathy Wyatt.
Charities fall short on meeting holiday needs. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, the economy and nonprofits. Joining us today to talk more about that are John Glenn. John is an Associate Vice President and Director of Communications for an Omaha-based fundraising, development, and public relations firm called the Steyer Group. Patrick McNamara, Director of Philanthropic Services for the Omaha Community Foundation. Jill Orton, Preparedness, Health, and Safety Director for the American Red Cross. And finally, Sue Fredericks, who is the Executive Director for Volunteers Assisting Seniors. Thank you all so much for joining us, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. John, we're going to start with you. If you could briefly paint a picture of Nebraska's economy.
Well, first of all, Kathy, I'm not an economist, nor do I ever pretend to be one, but it's pretty obvious that the country's hurting and the state's hurting. The federal government has officially labeled this a recession, but folks are hurting whether it was labeled a recession or not labeled a recession. People are still hurting. It's affecting families across the state. One indicator people always look at is the Mid-America Economic Barometer. It's the lowest it's been since 1994. That is a significant indicator that people are hurting in this economy. The second is the state has lost 1.3% of its manufacturing jobs in the past year. That's also an indication that some families are out of work and families are having a hard time. And finally, Dr. Ernie Goss, who's a leading economist in the state of Nebraska and nationally, he has recently been in the Wall Street Journal and said that if the coasts are having a pneumonia in their economic times, the state of Nebraska is having a bad cold. So it's not as bad as both coasts, but people are still being affected, and people still have to pay attention to their dollars and their cents and make good decisions.
And Patrick, obviously as a result of that, nonprofits are on the list of being impacted. And before we talk too much about that, if you could just start, we have a graphic that actually defines what a nonprofit organization is. Could you let us?
Sure. A nonprofit is a legally constituted organization whose objective is to support or engage in activities of public or private interest without any commercial or monetary profit.
Okay, perfect. And there are differences, and we need for people to understand what those differences are between a nonprofit and a for-profit organization. We actually have 4 graphics, and if we could walk through those one at a time, again, just to set the stage for the rest of the show.
Sure. One of the differences is that when you start a business, it is for the financial benefit of the owners or shareholders, and profit is the goal. The business pays taxes on that profit.
Okay. Secondly?
A nonprofit entity has a mission that benefits the greater good of the community, society, or world. It does not pay taxes, but it also cannot use its funds for anything other than the mission for which it was founded.
Okay. And third?
Nonprofit organizations can and do make a profit, but it must be used solely for the operation of the organization or, in the case of a foundation, granted to other nonprofit organizations.
And then finally?
When a for-profit organization goes out of business, its assets can be liquidated and the proceeds distributed to the owners or shareholders. But when a nonprofit goes out of business, its remaining assets must be given to another nonprofit.
Okay, thank you. And how many nonprofits are we talking about in the state of Nebraska?
Estimates are that we have approximately 15,000 nonprofits in the state of Nebraska. That includes churches, other tax-exempt organizations. About half of those are located in the greater Omaha area.
Wow, and of those that you've alluded to there, what percentage do you think, based on what John told us, are actually at risk of going under. And more importantly, I think we all assume it might be the little guy, but it might actually be some of the larger as well. So if you could speak to both those.
That's right. I do think that it's not just exclusively the small or medium-sized nonprofits. I don't know the exact number that are at risk, but I would say that at least half of those nonprofits are going to be hurting and going to feel a definite effect of this economic time.
Okay, wonderful. Jill, you are obviously part of one of the larger nonprofits, being with the American Red Cross. Talk to us a little bit about that organization and what you are experiencing at this time.
Okay, well, the American Red Cross is a humanitarian organization. We're led by volunteers, and we're guided by our international fundamental principles and our congressional charter. And what we do then is we assist disaster victims, and we help our community to prevent, prepare for, and respond to emergencies. So locally, well, and even across the nation, the five core services that we provide are disaster services, preparedness, health and safety, blood, military support to families, and also our International Red Cross. Locally, we also provide 2 community services, which are the pantry and energy assistance. And so what we're seeing is the need is constant for time, blood, and money. And you know, we've seen an increase of our community services, of course, the pantries, the energy assistance.
Okay. And how is all of this impacting, you know, your ability to serve the community and try to meet the needs of those out there?
Well, we continue to work our plans, and what we do is, you know what, we advocate and we say that there's the need, and it's been consistent. Fundraising has been good and consistent up till now. However, you know, we did have an active disaster period earlier this year, which, you know, brought the awareness that there is a need. But now is the critical time, holiday for all nonprofits, including the Red Cross. And we're asking people, okay, if you can't donate money, well, how about donating blood? How about volunteering your time? Or buy a practical gift of a first aid kit, or get training to save a life. Or if money is available, donate to your charity instead of possibly giving that Christmas gift. Or instead, I'd ask people in my family to donate to a charity instead of giving me a Christmas gift.
Good suggestions and wonderful options, because I think we always think of nonprofits as needing money, and they always, you know, can use things above and beyond that as well. So thank you for those suggestions. And Sue, going from the larger organization to a very, very small organization, talk to us a little bit about volunteers assisting seniors.
Our organization has been around the Omaha community for the past 30 years, so we have some history. We are an extremely small nonprofit. We have 2 full-time staff members and 2 part-time staff members. Our services are aimed at seniors in our community, and primarily we help them with their Medicare health care plans. We provide counseling and education. We also provide assistance with filing for homestead exemptions, some legal assistance, as well as conservator and guardian training. And because we have such a small staff, much like the Red Cross, we have volunteers that actually offer a lot of the services and who work directly with the seniors that come in for help.
And that's one way, obviously, that you can help fill the gap. But your organization, unlike many out there, doesn't really charge a fee for many of the services that you provide to help offset a little bit. So
Correct.
you're really in somewhat of a different boat even in that regard. So what is it that Volunteers Assisting Seniors is doing right now to stay afloat and try to ride this out?
Well, like most small nonprofits, we kind of live month by month. And one of the problems that we have, not only in needing funding, is the stress on our small staff and the time. Currently, we're in the Medicare prescription drug enrollment period that runs from November 15th through December 31st. And with our small staff and our volunteer corps, we will probably work with over 800 seniors in a 6-week time span. And that averages about 26 folks a day. And when we work with the seniors, this isn't a 5-minute conversation. It usually involves a good hour and sometimes some callback time. So the work we do really taxes the time that we have, and the fact that the economy is a little rocky right now. Seniors are a lot more concerned about their health care. They're trying to find ways to save money, so we're seeing more and more calling, looking for help, and it's hard for us to find the time for our staff to devote to fundraising. So again, we are on a month-to-month, hoping to make ends meet.
And Patrick and what his organization is designed to do is in many ways the answer to the prayers of people like Sue and Jill and those working within their respective organizations. Start by telling us a little bit about what the Omaha Community Foundation does.
The Omaha Community Foundation is essentially an umbrella organization over 850 donor accounts. Individuals, families, in some cases corporations open up an account, then they do their philanthropic giving through their Community Foundation account. In those 800 plus accounts, there's about, just under $500 million. And last year, almost $60 million was given away out of those accounts. Most of that, almost 90%, stayed in the greater Omaha area. So you can see this has a great impact on our community. Now, in most cases, donors are directing or advising where that money goes. So they tell us, send $100 to Volunteers Assisting Seniors, send $100 to American Red Cross, whatever the charity is. However, we also have some discretionary grant programs, our Fund for Omaha being the largest of those, that any nonprofit can apply to, and a 15-member grant committee then decides where that Fund for Omaha grants go.
Okay. You have just become the best friend of a lot of people watching, I'm quite certain. If they were sitting back on the couches, they're now on the edge of their seats. Well, what I'd like you to do is tell us a little bit about, because there will be some folks out there who represent the nonprofits that really maybe weren't aware that you were there and what your mission was. Talk to them about the process that's involved with linking or connecting with your organization.
There's a number of different doors into the Community Foundation. One is that Fund for Omaha grant process that I talked about, and applications will be online sometime probably early to mid-January for our spring cycle. And the website is omahafoundation.org. There's also a charity wish list that any nonprofit can put a wish up on that wish list, and we are trying to drive our donors and others to our website to look at those wishes and then try and make a match between a donor's interest and a nonprofit's need. We also, all the time, talk to nonprofits, so I would invite anyone who wants to give a call to me or to our Associate Director of Philanthropic Services named Sarah Gilbert, and we go out and do site visits, and essentially what we do in philanthropic services is try to match a donor's philanthropic interest with a giving opportunity. So we need to know enough about what nonprofits are doing out there to be able to say, donor X, over lunch last week we talked about, Latinos in the arts, and here are 3 or 6 or 12 different organizations that fit into that broad category that we talked about. It's up to you, donor, to decide where you want your money to go, but our job is to give them information so that they can make an informed decision about their giving.
Excellent. And you deal with donors small and large. Tell us what it is, if anything, that you're hearing from those folks as a result of this crisis, and maybe shed a little bit of light on it from that perspective.
Okay. Probably counterintuitively, there is more money going out of donor accounts this year than there was last year and for a number of years. So once people put money into their charitable account, they have it there to spend how they like. Now, I think that there's a perceived need out there, a greater need, and so more money is flowing out of the community foundation than year over year last year. There's actually more activity. Now, we'll see about how people replenish their accounts, putting money into their accounts, but we're finding that many new accounts are being opened. In fact, we're probably somewhere in the 80 to 90 range that have been opened new accounts this year. And for as little as $1,000, you can open up an account. So that is really encouraging. As my friend Ann Camp, who runs the Nonprofit Association of the Midlands, says, Omaha is a place of big hearts and deep pockets.
Very encouraging news indeed. And John, you're working directly, obviously, with an organization whose primary mission in life is to help that nonprofit raise awareness and dollars. It's called the Steyer Group. And why don't you talk a little bit about what you do there?
The Steyer Group is a national fundraising and development firm which specializes in feasibility studies and capital campaigns. We're 11 years old. We have offices now in Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Denver. The mission of the organization is to help others realize their dreams. Our goal is to help you get to your goal, as we like to say. This year alone, we've raised $228 million in an economy which has been rough. And it really goes to show what we're kind of echoing here today as a group, that people have big hearts. When people see a real need, they respond to it. And I think it's impressive. We all see the bad news every day, the economy, we see crime, we see all kinds of problems on the local news and national news every night. We get to work in an environment where we see the good in people. We see that there's a tremendous amount of good out there, and I think it really does my heart good to see it, and of course it does the hearts good of all the people that are receiving this extraordinary gift from others.
So for those people out there that are watching, if they are in a position to make a decision about moving forward with some sort of capital campaign, what would your advice be to them? Because I would imagine some are kind of shying away from it right now, thinking, oh, the timing is not good, but that's not necessarily what we're hearing from you today. And so what would your advice to that organization be?
First, what you're echoing is what a lot of corporations in the city are telling nonprofits. Don't stop. If you have needs and they're real, move forward with your plans, because the needs aren't going away. People have real needs now. They're more crystallized and more important now than maybe any time in the past 2 decades. The real key to that, though, is needs. Needs versus wants. You want to make sure that it's a need. You want to make sure you articulate that need, do an exceptional job of knowing who your donors are and what they want to see happen. Besides that, you've got to do a good job of dealing with people face to face. You're talking about human beings giving their dollars, giving their hard-earned dollars to organizations to make a difference. Ask them face to face. Ask them for a specific request amount, and then once you do that, tell them how you used their donation. It's very important to do all of those, and we're seeing that if folks are doing that, they're having some really positive results.
Now, there might be some folks watching thinking, oh, sure, he's in the consulting business and these are great things for him to say. I would like very much for you to talk about those organizations that are thinking that they don't need the professional fundraising development assistants who say, we can do this on our own. We have a lot of staff, we have a lot of resources right here. Talk to us a little bit about what the benefits are in gaining or getting some assistance from a firm like yours, I guess.
I think one of the biggest things you get is you get a process and a plan. You get someone who is going to be the quarterback, if you will, of the entire capital campaign process. Executive directors, their staff, are usually working 60 plus hours a week, and I'm talking about plus hours, 60 to 80 hours a week on their own. So it's very difficult for them to devote the time needed to recruit leadership, train and manage volunteers, to do good marketing materials, making sure that your message is a need and not a want, and then communicating that to your donors and the outside community. And then lastly, doing a good job of soliciting, knowing what your donors can afford, doing good donor evaluation. What's their heart? People don't give from their head, people give from their heart. And you've got to be able to translate your request into what is making them tick. If you do all of that with a consulting firm, you're getting not only the consultant who's on the ground every day at the nonprofit, but you're getting, for example, in our firm, we have 2 full-time grant writers, we have 2 full-time graphic artists, and myself, the head of communications, that work with every nonprofit we deal with to make sure their communication plan really moves forward. I like to think of every capital campaign kind of like a football game. You've got that momentum, and if you lose that momentum, or if you're not doing what your donors really want you to do, it falls apart. So you've got to have that good communication plan, and you have to have everyone motivated, on the same page, communicated with personally, and if you ask for their gift, you got a really good chance of helping your organization.
And rest assured to the people watching, this really is not designed to be a sales pitch. Fundraising is very difficult stuff to do. I think everybody is very well intended, thinking, okay, this is what we've come up with, this is what we're convinced we're going to be able to go out and raise, and they're very well intended. But Patrick, talk about, I mean, this is not a simple process, and just because you set out to write a grant doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the dollars back. So give us a realistic perspective, and a little bit playing into what John has said about how important, whether it's a consulting firm or someone else, how important it is to have that reinforcement.
I think that's right, and I would echo what John said, especially in the nurturing of that relationship with donors, looping back and saying, you know, here's how the money was used. I'd be interested to hear what Sue has to say, because I think sometimes executive directors are the best spokespeople for the organization, can really make it tangible and say, look, this is how your donation was used, and here's what, if you give, you know, this amount, we can do with it in the future.
Okay. That's a great segue, Sue. I think that was very well done, Patrick. Go ahead, sir.
In our situation, most of what we do with the funds that come in goes directly to our operating expenses to enable us to keep our organization running. And we are daily working with seniors. I have been with Volunteers Assisting Seniors for only a couple of months, and I have just been amazed at the type of work that we're doing, the complexity of the Medicare information that our volunteers are providing to seniors, and how desperately seniors need this information. I have worked directly with several folks calling, and the relief in their voice when they find somebody that has any knowledge on the Medicare system and who is willing to take the time and work with them is so rewarding. And so funding that we get in, it goes directly to run our operation and to help our clients that come to us get some relief with their Medicare needs, with homestead exemption filing. And I've been around the Omaha area working in nonprofits for years, and I have to say that our organization, it's there down in the trenches daily, fielding calls. So funding that does come into us, boy, it does go right back where we say it will, and it makes such a difference for seniors.
And that is very much a representation of an organization that is servicing individuals on the level. Now, we know, Patrick, that there are very well-intended folks out there who may not be, I guess what I'd like to ask is how does a potential donor know that the nonprofit to whom they're giving is on the level?
Well, I think that the very best way to get a sense of a nonprofit and what they do is to do a site visit. Walk through the door of that organization and take a look for yourself. That's what we do in the philanthropic services area at the Omaha Community Foundation every day. But for a donor to do that and be able to say, oh, now I get it. That's what my money's going for. That to me is really the heart of being able to understand what a nonprofit does.
So find out what you're investing in.
That's right.
That's bottom line.
That's right. And using that investment language, I think, is important, especially in this community. And what that return on investment is. Again, going back to John's point, looping back and saying, you know, there was a return on your investment. This helped seniors, and here's exactly how. This helped the military families. This helped people in need of blood. And this is exactly how that donation was used, your return on investment.
Okay, so we have folks that are watching right now who are kind of excited about all of this and now wanting to dig into their pockets and help organizations like Volunteers Assisting Seniors or the Red Cross or any number that we've alluded to. Tell us how they would go about then What's the process? They pick up the phone. What's a good first call to make in order to find out about that nonprofit that might be of interest to them, or just a category? Gosh, I want to help, animals, or I want to help kids, or I want to help seniors. Whatever the case may be, what's a good first call to make?
Well, I would say to the Omaha Community Foundation, to be self-promotional here, but the idea being that there is community knowledge out there, and the Omaha Community Foundation isn't the only place. A lot of research actually can be done on the web, and I would go to a website and look at what services are available, and sometimes breakdowns of how money was spent. I also would call agencies directly. Most agencies, whether it's the executive director, development director, someone there is going to be able to answer those questions, and that's, again, walking through the door and seeing for yourself. That's a good way to know what a nonprofit is doing.
Excellent. And John, not a bad time of year to be deciding that you want to give to an organization. Talk to us about the benefits of year-end giving.
Well, first of all, there's the tax benefit we all know about. Whether you give $1 or whether you give $100,000, there's a tax benefit. There's also the Pension Protection Act of 2006, I believe, was extended to include this year and next year. The qualifications, as I mentioned before, I'm not an economist or I'm not a tax advisor, but basically if you're 60 or if you're 70 and a half years or older, you can tap into your IRA, and correct me guys if I'm wrong, you're probably more experts than I am. If you're 70 years and a half and older and you want to tap into your IRA and make a gift, it can be tax deductible that way for the charity of your choice. But really, besides the tax benefit and the Pension Protection Act and all the different X's and O's we can mention, there's real need this time of year. Our clients see it. More and more clients are calling us up and saying, we've got needs, can you help us fulfill those needs? So clients aren't going away, the need's not going away. What a great time of year to make your heart feel good to help somebody else.
Which is a great segue into some graphics that we have. We have some information for folks, that first call to make, Omaha Community Foundation and the Steyer Group being among those. So let's go to that now. There is the information on how to contact Patrick. We have a website there as well as a phone number, 402-342-3458. John over at the Steyer Group, that's the website there, along with the phone number. And finally, the Nebraska Library Commission. You have a website and a 1-800 number there in front of you. So, we know that change is inevitable with anything. For those nonprofits we've spoken about today and those who need their services, we do hope that this crisis that we're in the midst of goes away here pretty soon. In the meantime, it sounds pretty optimistic, and we want to thank our guests today and all of you for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.